So good evening, good evening. I wonder how many people we have out there. Just warming up this evening, waiting for people to join the webinar. I think there's a few people who have joined already, so that's great. I'm just going to chatter on in the background while you join the room. So good to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining me this evening to talk about Spareroom. If you can introduce yourself in the chat panel, that'd be great. Just say your name, where you're from, and maybe what you'd like to get out of tonight's webinar, how I can help you best. So we're not quite at the time yet. We've got a few people just joining us at the moment. So thank you all very much indeed for your punctuality on time. I've not actually used this particular webinar software before, so it's a bit of a trial run for me. So I do hope it's going to work. I've used other webinar software quite extensively in the past, but this is a little bit new for me. So I do hope we don't have any technical glitches and hitches. I've got my chat panel here, so I can see you all coming in, which is great. So if you could just put your name in the chat panel and any questions or queries you have for me, which I'll attempt to cover. There's quite a lot that we want to cover this evening on our webinar, and I'm just going to wait for a few more people to join us. This particular piece of software seems to have a slight delay on the sound. That's the one thing I have discovered, is there's a few seconds delay. So if at some point the picture is going slightly ahead of my speech, that will be why. I believe there's about a 7 or 8 second delay, which isn't ideal. Admittedly, it's not ideal, but this particular piece of software is quite flexible in other ways. So that's why I'm giving it a go. So I'm afraid you're all my guinea pigs tonight. So I hope that's okay with you all to be my guinea pig. So if I can just check that it's going to be about an hour and a half, James. The webinar is going to be about an hour and a half. We'll finish about 8:30, so you can all get off and do other things with your evening. And if you are here till 8:30, I've actually got a very special gift to give to you at the end of the evening. So anyone who's still on at 8:30, if we haven't had too many difficulties and problems, I've got a very special freebie to give to you at the end. So great, thank you, Richard. Great comment there. You're a London landlord, but living in Norway. Okay, so you want to find out how to advertise more effectively for your young professional HMOs. Okay, cool. James, you're looking to maximise your inquiries on Spareroom. So we've already had some communication about that. So that's really helpful to know your background. So thank you very much for that. Is there anybody else who would like to introduce themselves and just maybe say why you're here this evening and what you'd like to get out of the webinar, how I can help you? I'll just let a few more people join up and make some comments in the chat room. This might be new software for you as well. I appreciate that there will be people who might be trying to get onto the webinar and they're having some difficulties. Sometimes software can be wonderful, but it can also be a bit of a pain if it doesn't work. So let's hope that this is working for everybody tonight. And thank you ever so much indeed for all of you for joining me and coming on board, coming online. And I'm hoping tonight that I will be able to share with you some of those key learnings that I've done in my journey as an HMO landlord, and how I can help you using Spareroom effectively. So I'm going to just keep saying to people, please do come in. It's lovely to have you with us. As you join this evening, please just introduce yourself on the chat panel. And if you've got a particular question or you want something answered, then please feel free to mention that in the chat panel. James, great to have you there. You're a London landlord living in Colombia. Wow, that's amazing. So we've truly got an international cohort here on the call tonight, so that's really exciting. Okay, so response rates, right? Well, we will go through all of those questions tonight, not a problem. So what I'm going to do to start with is to just open up my PowerPoint and share that of a few seconds between the visuals and what I'm saying. So I'll try and make sure that I click a little bit before I'm speaking, if that makes sense.
Hi, Michelle. Good to have you here. Thanks for registering. It's lovely when your friends join you in your webinar chat room. It's quite friendly, that, isn't it? So tonight we're going to be focusing on Spareroom, and what I've called this is the Insider's Guide to Spareroom. Some of you may have met me already. We may have met at networking events or Facebook or various other social events. And over the last 4.5 years, I've built up a portfolio of just over 20 HMOs. We've got about nearly coming up to 100 rooms now. And over that time, we have learned a lot about how to advertise effectively, particularly to the professional tenant market. Now, Spareroom doesn't just address its marketplace to the professional tenant. They actually address to students as well. And you can choose whether you prefer to have a professional or a student in your property. But we've used it mostly for professionals. So that's the angle that I'm coming at from tonight. I know Matt Hutchinson, who's the Chief Executive of Spareroom, and he knows that I'm doing the webinar. And I just want to say I'm not sponsored by Spareroom, although if it goes well, who knows? Who knows? If it goes badly, unlikely. But anyway, here's hoping. And what I'd like to do really is to share with you what I've learned over the last 4.5 years. And the site itself has, of course, evolved and changed in that time. But I think one of the truisms is that some of the key aspects of advertising don't just relate to Spareroom, but will relate to all of your advertising and marketing. So if you're responsible for your own lettings, if you're doing your own lettings, maybe you're doing rent to rent. Maybe you are involved in a business where perhaps it's your responsibility to let out the rooms and you have a business partner who's a little bit more passive, shall we say. In which case you need to understand how Spareroom works and how some of the tools on Spareroom are going to enable you to really maximize your income. Put yes in the chat panel if you like the idea of maximizing your income. Because I think most of us do, don't we? Most of us like the idea of maximizing our income. So just put yes in the chat panel if that's you and you can relate to that. And I know from my point of view that having an effective presence on Spareroom and being able to, thank you one and all, being able to advertise effectively and make it work is absolutely critical. So anyone who's still here at the end, after an hour and a half, I'm going to give you a special toolkit. It's called my Tenanting Without Tears toolkit. And if you are still here at the end of the webinar at 8:30 or when we finish, I will very happily email that across to you. And it contains all sorts of hints and tips about how to rent your rooms out effectively and how to make them stand out from the crowd. We are definitely in a more competitive marketplace now than we were a few months ago, a few years ago even. So being able to market your rooms effectively is really going to be critical for your success. So what I'd like to do is to actually share with you a live demonstration of Spareroom. I thought there's nothing better than me actually demonstrating to you a proper Spareroom account and setting one up as a demonstration to show you what I do and what I would do whenever I'm actually starting to advertise a new room or starting to advertise a new property that we might have online. So I'm going to share with you, I've actually opened this in Firefox because it makes it a little bit easier to share with you. So let me just open that up and check that you can actually see that. Can I just... As I told you, we might have a few little hiccups tonight, but let's hope not. Okay, can I just ask whether you can see Spareroom? I've got it open as Helen. There's a tab in the top right-hand corner. I just want to check that you can see that it says Helen in the top right-hand corner. As I said, there is a slight delay, so I will carry on, assuming you can see that screen. I'm pretty sure you can, which is good. Oh yes, good. Getting lots of responses there, so that's great. Now, before we we dive into you as an advertiser and as you as somebody who's letting rooms, what I'm going to do, I've called myself Helen for the basis of this test, is I'm going to log out. Now, the reason I'm logging out is because I want to show you what a potential tenant sees when they come on to Spareroom. Now, these are some new additional features that have only been on the site for a few months. And if you have simply logged in, you've clicked on that little blue button in the top right-hand corner, you might not have seen some of these new features on Spareroom. But I personally think these are some of the most exciting features that there are, and that you and I are privy to special information on this. And that's what I mean about being an insider guide. Because as I scroll down, what you will see here is looking in London. You see that line there that says looking in London. Now, I know for many of us, we're not looking in London. We haven't got rooms in London. We haven't got properties in London. So it's probably irrelevant to us. But let me just tell you what this particular part of the site does and what I think it might do in the future. So if, let's say, you are somebody who's coming into London wants to rent a room, you're a potential tenant in London, this little whizzy wig here allows you to search by commute time, by travel zone, by tube line. So really useful for people who say, I don't want to commute more than 20 minutes into work, or I want to get on the Hammersmith and City line and have 4 stops until I get into the centre of London, or whatever it is. Now, for those of us like me, who are just a little bit further out in the sticks, i.e. in the northwest of the UK, this doesn't really apply to us. But I think in time, this may well be something that actually applies to all of us. I suspect that Spareroom will start to develop this, and this will start to roll out through the rest of the UK. Message from Michelle, having problems with the connection. Is anybody else having problems with the connection? Can you hear me? Can you see the screen? Just must check that you're all okay out there. Just message me if you're having problems, because I can always reload it. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. It's great to know that that's brilliant. Okay, so most of you are okay. So Amanda, a bit of a bad connection. Sometimes I do know that if you've got lots of other things going on in the background, if you've got any other Wi-Fi streaming devices going on, or if you're, sort of watching the Game of Thrones on the side, or if you've got, some other sort of, downloading some mega massive file in the corner, that could affect your own connection. So, can I just make sure that, if you can shut all of those things down, it really does help with your Wi-Fi. Mine looks to be pretty good at the moment. So here's thumbs up that it's working. So this is the little part, though, that I want to share with you, which I think is really exciting. And it's try our Where to Live wizard. So this is a beta section. So this is a new testing section, a new page for Spareroom. But what I really love about it is the vocabulary and the terminology that they are introducing here. So as it says on the page, London is a big place and more closely resembles a collection of small towns and villages than one whole city. So for a tenant who was looking to narrow down their options for where to live, this is really important for them to be able to click a number of different features, if you like, of that particular room or that particular house. So you can choose something to be urban. I could click on that one. I could click on something that I want it to be lively. I want it to be fashionable. I want it to be cultured. And I want it to be cozy. I'm allowed to choose between 2 and 5 qualities that I look for in an area. Now, how is it going to be if I am looking for those particular features in a property and you, as the advertiser, have used those particular words in your advert? I wonder whether there will be a connection there. I wonder whether there'll be a click. I think there will be. So one of the first things I would say to you is, if you're advertising in London, you're looking to maximize your rents in London, where there is quite a lot of competition, I know this, then you need to make sure you're using this tool really well, the Where to Live wizard. You're utilizing the vocabulary that is in this section, inserting the vocabulary into your advert, because it's much more likely that if somebody then selects so let's say they select they want to pay, say, £600 a month, and presses go, that go button will match up your advert with what they're looking for. So I wouldn't suggest that you put all those words in so that you get everybody coming on your advert. It might look a little bit contrived, but assuming you're not going to do that, choose the descriptors that really fit your particular advert, and you're much more likely then to get complete matches, correct matches. Now, for those of us who aren't advertising in London, we're a bit further out into other parts of the UK, I actually still think this is a great tool. It's a great list of words to use. Spareroom knows what tenants are looking for. They collect data every single day on potential tenants, people who sign up to the website and create a profile. And they keep a track of the vocabulary that people are using and that they're looking for. So this is a really good way of utilizing effective vocabulary from the site to put into your own advert. So I think that could, for many people, actually be a bit of a game changer as well. So I'm going to go back again now. And you can see the front page of the site, which I'm sure many of you are fully familiar with already. Now, one of the things, of course, to remember with Spareroom is that there are really three types of advertising. You've got rooms for rent, you've got rooms wanted, and you have got buddy ups, which is slightly new. And this is for people who want to find other tenants who they can buddy up with, who they can share with. So it's unlikely you'll be buddying up. That's not the kind of advert that you'll be placing, but you will be placing rooms for rent. So as I said earlier on, I came onto Spareroom and I set up a kind of fake login. Don't tell anybody, don't tell Matt that I did this. But this is just so that I can share with you how we advertise on Spareroom and some of the other tools and features that you can use on the site. So I'm going to log in here very, very quickly. Okay, so I'm Helen for the sake of this advert. Now, as you can see, I need to log into our office administrator email to confirm the email to activate the account. I'll do that in a moment. But I earlier on set up an advert on the site. And of course, what you'll find is when you set up an advert on the site, it's a very, very simple, straightforward process. I'm sure many of you have done this already. You've already set up your advert. But I've only set it up as a basic account. And as you can see here on the page, Spareroom makes more money, of course, by people upgrading. So either by having a bold ad or by having early bird access. Now, when I first started coming on Spareroom, I thought, oh, I don't want to pay extra. I'm just going to get the free advert. That'll be absolutely enough. But what I didn't realize was that actually there are tenants who also sign up to being early birds. They're the ones that in the first 7 days, they've paid extra to be an early bird. And they will only be allowed to see adverts from other people who have also paid for the early bird payment, the upgrade. So actually, if you haven't got early bird as an advertiser, you are missing out on all those tenants who have paid also to be early birds. There won't be a match between the two of you. So for example, let's say Bob's looking for a room and he comes onto Spareroom and he creates a profile and he signs up as an early birder. He will get access to all the adverts, including all the landlords who've put up an early bird advert. But because you, well, in my case, me, was a bit of a skinflint and decided, oh, I'm not going to pay that money. I'm going to just wait. I'm actually waiting another between 7 and 10 days before I can see Bob, before I can contact Bob, because Bob is not being revealed to me. His profile isn't revealed to me because I haven't paid for the upgrade to early bird. So it's really worth you upgrading to early bird because, as they say, the early bird catches the Tenant, correct. No, sorry, worm, of course. But that's it, isn't it? The early bird catches the worm. So if you want to catch the worm, I would thoroughly recommend that you upgrade now. So I'm going to go through that process. And of course, they want to sell it to you. Upgrade gets you the following: early bird access and a bold ad. And then you have, down the page, you have all the different options for the pricing structure and the pricing model for this. If you are a serious investor, maybe you've got more than 3 or 4 HMOs, or you would like to have more than 3 or 4 HMOs, I do think it's worth considering having the upgrade of the 6-month saver or the 1-year saver. And in fact, we have the 1-year saver now, the early bird plus the 1 bold advert, because it means that I don't have to continually go in and renew it. It means that our team don't have to continually top it up and renew it. It's always there. Now, admittedly, this is for 1 listing, and if you need extra listings, you have to pay for them. But actually, they're very reasonable. It's a very reasonable extra cost for any extra listing. But it means that any advert that you subsequently upload to the site, you will automatically get early bird and bold advertising. So I think it's really worth it. Now, for the purposes of our little situation here, I am going to quickly sign on to just the 7-day version, because obviously I'm only testing this out. So I don't really want to have to spend lots of money just to test this out. But I'm going to upgrade now. Will it take me to PayPal? I think it will take me to PayPal. So you're seeing a live demonstration here, people. Okay, this is absolutely what's happening. So I'm going to log into PayPal. I'm going to do it through my business, which is called HMO Success. Aha, this is the bit I have to hide from you. Can't show you my password. So just hold on there.
My PayPal account. If I can remember the password, that would be good, wouldn't it? Oh dear. Right, while I'm doing this, have a quick think if there's any questions you've got so far, or anything that I've spoken about already, and put them into the chat panel. Any thoughts at all about any questions you've got? While I log in, you can probably hear me typing away in the background. And here we go, it's going through, so that's good. Securely logging me in. So we're nearly there, folks. So you're actually seeing it live here. So I'm paying that now. And so in a minute, I'll be able to return to Spareroom. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Payment complete, it's saying. So it's now redirecting me back to Spareroom. I can now turn my screen share on again and share.
Right, Michelle, good question. Thank you. If you pay 12 months for early bird, can you put all your rooms on and this will apply? It will. It will. However, you normally would buy early bird for your first property, and then you have to pay for the additional properties. So it's almost like paying for early bird gets you into the club, but then to actually advertise all your extra properties, you need to put them all on one by one, if that makes sense. And for that, there is a small extra fee to pay. But it basically means you're then in the early bird club, and you will be for the following year. So there we go. As you can see on the page, it says, thank you for your order. My upgrade has been added and my early bird access has been set up. Now, this is the part where I really want to share with you some of the key metrics and key areas of behind the scenes of the advert. I'm going to share with you in a little while how to create your advert. But before I do that, you may think this is a little bit back to front, but I want to do this because we're on this page. And this is really important. A lot of people don't realize that Spareroom is, of course, an advertising portal. So one of the things that it does is measure and track metrics the whole time. And it allows you to set a price for your advert. So let me share with you what I mean. So this is my placed advert page. And you can see here on my placed advert page, it says my account is upgraded. I've now got early bird access and bold advertising, which is great. Now, not only have I got early bird access and bold advertising, and bold basically means that I've got this blue surround, this light blue surround, and I have my advertising will stand out more. That's what it means. It will stand out more. But as well as that, I can actually do something more detailed now that I've gone on to early bird access and bold advertising. And you don't get access to this if you just have the standard non-early bird and bold access, bold advertising. So the first thing is I can feature my advert. So if I click on that little list there, featured ads, there's an explanation about how featured ads work. Now, again, you might have seen this if you've been onto Spareroom and had a look and looked at your listing, and yours is perhaps a bit further down than everybody else's. It's probably because the other people have paid for featured ads, and that means that they have paid to go right to the top of the list, and they have paid extra to do that. They paid extra to boost their advert. So you click on to the My Featured Ads page. It gives you an inquiry, it gives you an explanation. And then, as you can see, halfway down, it says, how do featured ads work? Featured ads work on a pay-per-click basis. This is a method commonly used by search engines so that you only pay for people who are genuinely interested in your ad. Room seekers click on ads they're interested in to find out more, and you only pay if they click. So this is a very common method of advertising nowadays, either through Google, through many different larger portals. They use what's called pay-per-click. Amazon uses pay-per-click. So what it means is that you will determine how much of your budget, how much your budget is on a daily basis or a per-click basis. And if somebody comes across your advert and thinks, oh, that's interesting, I'd like to see more, and they click on it, basically Spareroom will then think, yes, okay, brilliant, that's 50p that I need to charge to Wendy because somebody has clicked on her advert. So you can actually add extra money to the site. Can you see where we're going with this one, people? Yes, it can get a little bit. You need to think about the money. I'm not going to say expensive, because I actually believe that good advertising done well will save you money. It's not expensive, but it is an investment. It's like many other things in life. It's what you put out is what you'll get in. What you put into it is what you'll get out of it. And if you don't put something into it, you're not going to get enough out of it. And because I said earlier on, this is the insider guide to Spareroom. There are lots of people here who are, either new to Spareroom. Oh, my screen's gone a bit funny. Sorry, excuse me about that. Let me get us back in the room. There's lots of people here who are new to Spareroom or are not familiar with some of these tools. And that means that you won't know that other people are using the site in a slightly different, more elegant and more professional way. So if we got started with featured ads, this takes you into this particular page. Again, another payment page. And what it allows you to do is to add a certain level of funding to your account. And this is up to you, how much you want to put in. And as well as adding a certain budget to your account, you can also determine a daily budget. So in other words, if, for example, you decide that you want, until your room is rented, you're prepared to pay £5 a day, then you can choose that. You can choose that £5 a day will be your daily budget. Now, again, I'm going to add a small amount of money. I'm just actually going to add £1 to my account. and I'm going to say my daily budget is £1, and I'm going to pay again using PayPal. Oh, it's got to be £10 or more. Oh, fantastic. Great stuff. They're going to be doing well from me tonight. So I'm going to go back to PayPal again, and I will just very quickly can't see my password. So that's ticking over now. I might have to phone Matt tomorrow and say, Matt, I'm really sorry. I accidentally put £20 into the wrong account. Please really refund me. I don't know if he's going to say yes. What do you think? Have I got any hope? Probably not. Oh, what I do for my audience, what I do for you. Okay, right. So we are now back. Take that down. Right, okie doke. So back in the room. Can I just make sure that you can all now see again the Spareroom site, the Spareroom page? Is that up on your screens now? Because I've been doing a bit of messing around behind the scenes, so I need to make sure that you can see what I can see. So if you could just put yes or yeah or something in the chat panel, so I know that you can see that, that would be brilliant. Okay, good. It looks like that's coming through now, so that's brilliant. Okay, excellent. Okay, so featured ads. Now this is where it gets really interesting, because this is where the nitty-gritty comes in behind the scenes. So if I go to continue to your featured ads admin page and click on that, this is what crops up. And this is where a lot of people go, oh, I don't know what this means. I can't deal with it. I'm not going to do it. And they run away. Just stick with early bird and bold advertising. But I tell you this, if you get to grips with this, this is a fantastic tool for you to use in your advertising, because it really allows you to tweak and understand where your advert sits in comparison to your competitors. And who wants to beat your competitors? Yes, of course we want to beat our competitors. We want to be top of the listings, don't we? We know that the majority of tenants who click on to a listing site will click on the first 4 adverts. And if in the first 4 adverts they see a room that they like and they want that room, they won't bother looking at any others. So if you're on page 2 or 3 or 4 Spareroom, do you know what? You're not going to cut it. And in case you're wondering whether the rest of the Spareroom community is listening to this webinar, well, they're not. I can't see at the moment how many people we've got in the webinar. We had about 50 people registered. So you are the minority. You are the people who have taken time to learn about how this works, to get better at it. But the majority of people don't care. And of course, as we know, there are quite a lot of agents, and many agents now are sitting at home having a glass of red wine, which we as investors would probably be doing if we could. Maybe you are. I envy you if you are. I'm not. I'm sitting here with some water. I'm being good. But, you know, we make ourselves uncomfortable to do what others won't be able to do in a number of years. Isn't there a phrase that says, I do now what others won't do so that I can do in the future what others can't do? And I'm really a believer in that doing something now that's a little bit out of your comfort zone will pay dividends in the future. So back to Spareroom and my little bit of mindset there. So your featured ad settings will tell you exactly how to make a bid for the top of your listing. And what I'd like to do is just go through this so that you see how this works. So the pay-per-click setting is, if you like, on this first page, it's a kind of standardized pay-per-click. So it tells me here that my default bid per click is just 3p and my daily budget is £1. So in other words, for everybody who clicks on my advert, I will pay Spareroom 3p. And I've already uploaded £10 to the site, so they have that budget there to draw upon to pay my 3p a click. But what I really want to find out is, how does my advert compare to other people's? So I'm going to go on to this tab here, which is called Ranking. So Advert Ranking, this page lets you view your advert's position within the search results of the website. So in other words, if you are number 2, that means your ad should appear at the top of page 2 of the search results. Now, my advert, which we're going to have a look at in a few moments, is a fake advert, but I did base it in Stoke-on-Trent because that's one of the areas that I invest in. So as you can see, the potential search that shows up here is Stoke-on-Trent. So I'm going to run that ST postcode and see how my advert shows up. Now, as you already probably know, that in order to put an advert on Spareroom, you have to give it a title. And because I wanted my title to stand out a little bit, I've called my advert "Unusual 5-Bed Shared House, Stoke-on-Trent." So you can see there, that is the title of my advert. I've just got the one advert so far. But what's interesting here is that if we look down, you'll see the titles of many other adverts in the area, and I'm not at number 1 nor number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we are. I'm at place 8. So for my current bid, which is the standard bid, I'm paying 3p, and that takes me to place 8 on the rankings. If I want to go to number 1 ranking, the amount I need to pay is 22p. 22p. So I need to increase my bid to 22p. So how do I do that? Well, this is where you go on to individual ad bids. So you can see the tab hopefully just there. So individual ad bids. So as you can see, my individual featured ad settings are showing up here, and it's got the title of my advert and the postcode, which actually I made up. There we go. And it is a featured ad, and it's at the moment, the bid is on a default 3p, which is what Spareroom set it at when I chose to pay for featured ad status. But I know that actually I need to be higher. As we've just seen, I need to be at least 22p. So I'm actually going to be putting in 23p just to make sure I'm slightly ahead of the game, and I'm going to update it. So my custom bid has now been changed. Now it will take a little while for my custom bid to reach the top of the rankings. So we're going to leave that there for now, and we'll come back to it in about half an hour and see what's happened to the ranking of my advert. Now, before we do that, let me just also quickly run through some of these other tabs that you see across here. So payments shows you where you can pay. And as you can see here, I topped up from PayPal. So that's just an explanation of history. Statistics, that's another tab here. And this shows historical statistics for your advert. Obviously, because I've just literally set mine up today, it says there no stats available for this period. But if you've got an advert that's been running for a week or two, you can click on it, choose the advert. You may have a number of them to choose from, and pick the date range that you want to have a look at, and then view the statistics on it. Now, mine won't have any, obviously, but what will happen with your advert, if it's been on for a few days or more, is a chart will appear, and it will tell you how many people viewed your advert, how many people clicked on your advert, and how many people chose to find your email or telephone information by clicking on the appropriate button. What's very interesting is that Spareroom themselves have said that the peak period for looking at rooms is Sunday night. Monday comes in close second, and Friday comes in close third. So it's obvious that at the end of a pretty hectic weekend of living in a communal space, people are fed up and they want to move out or they want to move on. And Sunday night seems to be that time when they're beginning to think about where they should move to and when. And Monday night, you know, they've been back to work for the day, and oh, what a dreadful day they've had at work, and now they're going home to an awful place to live. So what they also want now is to move. But by the time it gets to Wednesday or Thursday, they're kind of less bothered. Things have settled down a bit, and, you know, they're not looking so much. And it would be interesting to see whether your personal statistics would reflect that. Certainly ours do. We've looked and seen peaks and troughs in the middle of the week. But don't be afeared if that's what happens to you, because what you'll find is that's simply because that is the very nature of the kind of tenants we're dealing with. They tend to have a peak at the weekends, and then of course it's a bit more of a trough during the week. And also remember that if your advert is brand new, the other side of the coin of the early bird is that for tenants who haven't paid for early bird status, this is potential tenants, they will not see your advert because they haven't upgraded. So your advert is shielded from them. Again, what you might find is after a week of your advert being live, you suddenly get more inquiries. And that is because suddenly there's a whole group of people who are waiting for your advert to stop being on the early bird platform and to be on the general platform. See, there's a lot to this Spareroom malarkey, more than you thought there was. Then the last tab, of course, is FAQs. So lots of questions that you can that Spareroom answer there. How they use featured ads, how they calculate it, the click-through rates, etc. So lots of stuff to read through there. So do feel free to go into that area of the website and have a good play around with that as well. Okay, so before we move on to the content of the advert and how best to advertise your room or your property, are there any questions on that particular section while I grab a glass of water? Have a little think. Is there anything that you want to know about which I haven't explained, or you've got some queries or questions about? You're probably thinking, and also there is, of course, a slight delay on the time scale. Okay, good question, Michelle. I'm not planning on sending out a recording of this afterwards. I'm going to be doing another couple of webinars over the next couple of weeks, though. So if you want to join another one and take some notes, on my Tenanting Without Tears toolkit, there is a lot of this information on there, so you can get a copy of that at the end. And I will also be giving people an opportunity to join me on a special workshop that I'm leading in Birmingham. And we're going to be looking specifically at advertising and selling of rooms and of yourself as a business within your HMO portfolio. So I'm going to give people an opportunity to do that. So your learning is not lost. Great. I'm glad you're making lots of notes and learning. That's really good to hear. Can I replace an advert for one room with an advert for a different room? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We'll go on to that. Your name. I don't know who you are. I'm afraid I don't have your proper name. But yes, you can replace an advert for one room with an advert for a different room. And I'll show you how to do that now. I presume you mean in the same property. Or if you're talking about different properties, I'll explain how you put different adverts up for different properties. So we're going to go back now to my account, otherwise known as Helen. I'm Helen for tonight. Hello, Matthew. Who are you tonight? I'm Helen. Thank you, Matthew. So that is my page, my advert page. And I'm now going to go into my ads, manage my ads, edit, upgrade, or delete my ads. Okay, so if I click onto that, we know that early bird access and bold, that's cool. So scroll down and there I see my unusual 5-bed shared house, Stoke-on-Trent. So let's edit my advert. So again, we're going to go in the back end of this advert so you can see how you need to put together an advert so that it works well. In fact, just before we do that, though, let me just quickly take some time to have a look at what's here on your admin page. As you can see, it tells you some basic information. The advert is live. It's got 28 days left on the early bird program that I've paid for. And if I wanted to deactivate at any time, I can deactivate the ad. Now, the benefit of deactivating it is that when you then reactivate it, let's say somebody moves out and you need to reactivate it, your listing becomes a fresh advert in the eyes of Spareroom. Don't be tempted to do what many people do, which is just keep their advert live on Spareroom, ticking over in the background. Once you've filled your house, deactivate the ad, because it basically tells the search engines that your advert is no longer relevant. They're there to wipe it off. No one's going to see your advert anymore. And it brings it fresh back to the top of the listings when it's new again. Otherwise, what you find is you spend a lot of money on boosting that advert and creating a featured ad status and paying all of that extra, when actually, you know, all you're doing is really spending money on that advert if the house is filled. And I've seen adverts for properties where every room is filled. All the rooms are crossed out. The house is now filled, but the advert is still live on Spareroom. Well, that actually is not good for your advert, because it makes it old. It makes it, it doesn't give it any energy. There's no life to that particular advert. And the environment of Spareroom is a very dynamic environment. So you need to make sure that your advert is fresh and new. And we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. You can also share this on Twitter and Facebook. You've got the share buttons there. So if you are advertising on Facebook and Twitter, you can use those buttons to share your advert, which is great. And then, of course, at the bottom, you've got all the different tabs that you can use, the different buttons to edit your particular advert. So let's go into the edit button now. Okay, so I set this up earlier. So the area is Stoke-on-Trent. It's Whittaker Way. I don't think there is a street called Whittaker Way. There we go. That's an idea for Stoke-on-Trent City Council, isn't it? If it needs a street naming, I am here. I am here. It could be even Whittaker-Large Way. It would have to be a very long road, though, I think, if it was going to be that one. So I jest. So I've set up the advert, and I'm sure that you've all done this many times before. This is very, very straightforward. Blah, 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 security deposit. Now, one thing I would point out is available from. Now, one of the ways that Spareroom makes sure that all the adverts that it's advertising are relevant, fresh, up to date, and what people want to have a look at is they look at the date that the room is available from. Now, let's say you've had a room available for the last 10 days, and the date on the advert says that it's available from the 20th of August. Do you think that your advert will take precedence over an advert where the room is available from the 2nd of September? Or would the advert that's available from the 2nd of September take precedence over your advert where the room has been available for 10 days? I'll give you the answer. It would be the advert where the 2nd of September is checked. So again, another insider tip, make sure that the date where it says available from is constantly being refreshed. So when you're editing your advert, one of the ways in which your advert will stay near the top of the listings is because of its content, because the content has been edited and it's being attended to. And one part of that is, of course, the date range. The other reason is because you don't want to let it look as if this room is languishing on Spareroom and, you know, it's been available for like 2 months and, oh, nobody wants to rent this room and it's really an awful grungy room and particularly if your photos aren't very good. You're going to give the wrong impression to tenants. So make sure that your advert date available from is constantly being refreshed, and we tend to do ours for about 3 or 4 days in advance. So the impression we give is the room is available, but not quite yet. In other words, hurry up because it's going to go. And it's those two elements of urgency and scarcity, which are key when you're advertising anything in life, not just rooms on Spareroom. As you carry on down the site, of course, you can fill in details about the existing flatmates. Again, we tend to fill this in really pretty thoroughly because it's helpful to other tenants to know that they're going to be sharing with professionals, because you can pull that down and it can be the occupation is not disclosed, student, professional, other, or mixed. And I do wonder what a mixed occupation is. I've never heard of anybody with a mixed occupation. However, I wait to be educated on that one. If you can tell me what a mixed occupation is, a bit like mixed gender, I'd be very pleased to hear that one. But this one, again, is useful for tenants who are coming to look at your advert. Some of them will look in detail, some of them will not, some of them will just email you straight off the blocks, and they won't read anything, but some of them will look in detail, so it's worth doing this thoroughly. I don't tend to write about the nationality or the sexual orientation, partly because, well, I've never really had the gall to ask any of my tenants what their sexual orientation is, and in terms of nationality, I don't particularly feel that's terribly relevant. Possibly it would be in some parts of the UK, though, in which case the button is there. If you need to use it, do please feel free to use it. And then also preferences for the new flatmate. Again, I'm usually pretty clear about things like minimum age. We tend to only take people from 21 and over, and professional. And generally, I don't mind gender. I prefer non-smoking. So that's the kind of settings that we tend to use. But then you come on to the part which is a bit less easy to determine, which is the wording. So how can you make sure that your house, your advert, is worded so that people are interested, that they want to come on to your advert, and it tells them enough information to make them either want to click through and book a viewing, or to phone you and maybe inquire a little bit further. Okay, so there's a few rules of thumb here. First one, the title. Now, what we found works, because we tend to invest in 2 or 3 different areas in our locality, is putting the location of the property is very, very helpful. So we always tend to add Crewe or Stoke-on-Trent or Hanley if it's more of a localized advert. I try and make sure that I always put in where the property is, particularly because what we found in Crewe and Stoke-on-Trent is that we get quite a lot of people from outside the region coming, and they want to know that the house advert they're looking at relates to the area they're going to be living in. And particularly with foreign, not so much students as maybe foreign workers or perhaps interns. We've had quite a number of interns, people working for Bentley, for example. They click on an advert, and when you see it from the tenant perspective, which we're going to have another look at in a minute, you'll see it's not always very clear where that advert actually, where the house is located. So if you put it in the title of your advert, it's very, very clear. And then put in some other feature about the property. So in this case, I've said it's an unusual 5-bed shared house. Now, I probably wouldn't write that, actually, because it seems like it's a weird 5-bed shared house. I did it for the purposes of this exercise so I wouldn't lose the title in everything else. But I might use words like beautiful, bijou, quiet and peaceful, luxury. Or, you could use the words that we saw earlier on in the places where to live, that set of vocabulary that Spareroom has very helpfully loaded up onto the website for people living in London. Maybe choose one of those words to put it in your advert. But describe something about your property, about the actual features of that property and the location. And then we come on to the actual description of the property. And you may have heard of the 4-letter acronym, AIDA. AIDA. I'll write it actually in the chat panel so that you can all see this, AIDA. That means attention, interest, desire, action. And if you've done any marketing before, you've probably come across that acronym. That is an acronym that a lot of marketers use when they're writing copy for an advert. And I learned this probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and it made me really think about how we put together our adverts, because sometimes I think we can perhaps put a little bit too many features but not enough benefits into the advert. So this is a typical kind of advert that we would write. Lovely large double fully furnished room in a 5-bed professional house share on the popular Whittaker Way. Actually, I think have I spelled professional wrong? High standard throughout. This property is neutrally decorated, furnished, there should be a comma there, apologies, and benefits from a separate communal lounge and large kitchen. So the first paragraph is a general description of the property. It focuses on the room, and I will never say rooms to let, because not many people want rooms. Most people want one room. They don't want 5 rooms. They want one room. And if in your advert you are speaking to them as if you've got, a whole load of rooms to let, possibly unless it's a student share, actually, that would be different, because you may well be letting to a group of students. But on a professional basis, generally, we rent to individual people. Well, they don't want rooms. They want one room. So focus on that one person. Imagine that tenant in your mind and think about how you would speak to them if you were going to phone them and tell them about the property. You would tell them about the one room that you might think would be ideal for them. Or it might be the room that you most want to sell, actually. It might be the most beautiful room in the house that you're using as a showcase for the rest of it. Or it actually might be one of the least nice rooms in the house that you want to sell first. But whichever one it is, make sure your advert is personalized and only focuses on the one unit of accommodation that you're actually trying to sell. Then a little bit more detail we add. This spacious property benefits from gas central heating, double glazing, and a rear garden. And then I do go into a little bit of detail about the rest of the house. So there are 4 large double rooms and 1 smaller double room. There's 2 large shared bathrooms, and they've got power showers. So a little bit more description. So these are what I will call features of the property. What are the features of the property? I'll put, even though I might have already clicked the button that says bills included, quite often people want to know in the advert description that the bills are included. So important to state that quite, obviously, that bills are included and what they are. They like to know that. And then the last part is a bit more of a sales pitch. So what makes this property different? Why should you, as a professional, you've seen the features now, what are the benefits to you? How can I now interest you in taking the step further to thinking, oh, yes, I love this property. I want to move in. I want to see the photos and I want to make a booking. Well, this is the ideal property for professionals looking for high standard accommodation, close to amenities and transport links. So what I've done is set the tone there that as professional landlords or as a professional agency, you have high standards. You believe in treating your tenants well, and somebody will be happy living here because you've got high standards. This superb property is close to Stoke Leisure Centre, Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Royal Stoke Hospital and Grand Central Retail Park, most of which I have made up, by the way, for the sake of this argument. Bus links are on your doorstep, and Stoke train station is just a short way away, it should say. The house is a 10-minute walk to a large Sainsbury's supermarket and close to many shops, bars, cafes and restaurants. So some benefits there if you're going to be living there, but also it gives you a flavour of the area and where the house is situated if you've never been to Whittaker-Large before. Now, this last part is what I always call is the call to action. So attention, interest, desire, and now you want them to do something. There's no point them looking at your advert and reading it and then going off to do something else. So we always put what we call a call to action in the bottom. You will love living here, as we always make sure tenants know the house rules for great communal living, like being clean and tidy, she says with a wry laugh. So here it comes. Don't delay. Call us today to book your viewing of the unusual, actually, I should say this, unusual and beautiful home. In other words, give us a ring. Take some action. Do something. Email, phone, text, whatever you want to do, but book your viewing today. And that does make, I think, quite a bit of difference, because it leaves people with the thought that, yeah, I've got to do something now. I can't just read this and go to the next advert. Sometimes we might write, call us soon because our rooms tend to rent quickly. So make sure you've booked your viewing today. Or our rooms are often sold out within 3 days of going live on this website. So please make sure that you don't lose out of the opportunity. You don't want it to sound too salesy. It needs to sound natural, as if you've written it. But on the other hand, it needs to be a little bit of a push, because you want them to come to the decision. So that's the description side. And I'm going to move on now to the photos. Please do feel free to put up any questions on the chat panel. I hope you're still all alive out there. I know it's coming up to 8 o'clock now. I could go on for hours. You can probably tell that. And you know, I've only had meatballs and what do we have? Potatoes for tea and some vegetables. So I haven't had anything to sort of put me like this, but I genuinely do love talking. So please do feel free to interrupt, ask questions. Okay, James, brilliant. Thank you. What is the impact of linking my Spareroom advert to my Facebook and Twitter account? So really good question. I would suggest you set up a separate Twitter and Facebook account. Many people will have a Facebook page, which is their business page, and they will advertise on that page rather than on their personal Facebook account. So I would suggest that you probably want to do that. Twitter, perhaps it's less controversial to advertise on your own Twitter account. That's probably less of an issue, but it's whether you want tenants to then be able to sort of see your personal profile. I'm a little bit private about that, not terribly, but I'm a little bit careful about that. But we have our own company Facebook page, which we use to advertise rooms on. So it just, it looks a little bit more professional. So I hope that helps you. So let's go to photos. And do feel free to keep putting up questions if you've got some, if you've got any thoughts, if you're dying in the corner, if you just want someone else to do this for you. Okay, so photos. So let me give you some hints about photos. Well, I think it goes without saying that you need to make sure you've got good quality photos and that the rooms should be dressed. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to a slightly different view so you can actually see this advert live. So I'm just going to save those changes. So I'm going to go to the view mode here. So this is when you can actually see it. Now, Spareroom, understandably so, recognise that videos are a very good way for people to see rooms and understand it. Oh, thank you, your name. Appreciate it. That's good. I just want to help you. I genuinely come from a desire to serve because I know what it was like for me 3.5 years ago, struggling through Spareroom. And honestly, the day I met Matt Hutchinson, I peppered him with questions and he must have been so fed up with me. But I wanted to know how this bloody site worked. I wanted to figure out how did this site work and how was I going to make it my business work if I couldn't get tenants into my rooms. So for me, my learning is very much embedded in need to know and really wanting other people also to be great landlords because, guys, we need to stand up for HMOs because they are a great place for people to live and they are a great, they provide massively good hospitality for a lot of people. Let's not forget that when we're being hammered by the government and we're being hammered by the press and we're greedy landlords, actually, most of us are not. Most of us really care about what we do. And so I really care about you having a successful business. And I really think Spareroom is probably a big part of that for you. So that's why I'm doing this. So this is the advert as a tenant would see it. And I think you can see that the photos are good quality. And in the space in the advert where you can upload the photos, you can add a little description. Again, make the most of that because when somebody hovers over the advert, the little description will pop up. So beautiful double bedroom downstairs. And then the next one is beautiful ensuite double. That's an upstairs room. So they get a feel of what the rooms are like. Fully furnished and TVs also included. I know that's obvious. I know it's obvious, isn't it? It is fully furnished and the TV is on the wall there. That's fine. It's not just a big black splodge. But actually, it's really good to have the written with the visual. Again, the message is we're professional landlords. We care about you. We care about the quality of our portfolio and our rooms. If it's just for your information, we run at about an average of about 96% occupancy. We've sometimes been down to about 92%. Earlier this year, things were a little bit tough for us, and we saw a lot of competition in the marketplace. We went down to about 92, but we're running at about, we've only got about 3 or 4 rooms available at the moment. So occupancy wise, I'm confident that what we do in our company in Best Nest is working. So these are just tips that I've learned, and I really do hope that they're helping you as well. So a picture of the ensuite bathroom there. We use a professional photographer. How he got this shot, I don't really know. Must have been sitting on the toilet at the time or standing or somehow. Anyhow, that's the ensuite. Kitchen, large dining kitchen. Another shot of the kitchen, get great facilities, all mod cons, and then the front view of the house there. So the key thing is when you are putting your photographs up, they need to be good quality, they need to be well lit, the curtains need to be open, the bed needs to be made, and the room needs to be dressed. These may be basics. Some of you will know this already, and you're already doing a fantastic job of dressing and showing your rooms. But if this is not what your rooms look like, this will have an impact on the interest you'll be getting from potential tenants. So please make sure that you do all of those things. As well as that, though, there is a particular order that seems to work best in the order of photographs. And it tends to be bedroom, ensuite or bathroom, kitchen, lounge, and then an outside view, front door or back garden or something like that. Okay, good question. Do we keep bathtubs in the bathrooms or just only showers? So we do mostly, when we're putting in new bathrooms, we only put in showers. But we have got a couple of properties that we refurbed, and there were some lovely baths in there already, which we thought it'd be a shame to take these out. So usually that would be in a larger property where we might have 2 or 3 en suites and then maybe a couple of shared bathrooms. So one would be a shower room, but then in the other one we would have kept the bath in the bathroom. We're still evaluating whether that's a good idea or not, because we have had tenants who will take an hour in the bath and use up all the hot water, which obviously the other tenants don't like very much. But generally it hasn't caused too many problems and seems to attract more female tenants. And given that I would say 80% of our tenants are male, it's quite nice to have some women in a house as well. It gives a good mix to the house. So yeah, we sort of do a bit of both. Some people do want a bath, James. Women, as I say, tends to be, they want a bath. We are putting in more en suites, Michelle, but actually it depends on the property, because of course some of them aren't big enough for you to put en suites in all the rooms. But where we can put in en suites, we're finding that is adding to the quality and of course the saleability of the rooms. They people prefer to have their own bathroom, really, generally, don't they? So and we think it does pay off in the long run. The tenants tend to stay longer, they tend to be better tenants, they're prepared to pay a little bit more. We get more, probably get between about 25 to 30% more room rent in en suites. The payback period isn't, it's not as good as just as a room. It takes us a little bit longer to get the payback from an en suite, but it does reduce our voids. So I think it is probably worth it overall. Okay, so that's obviously how your advert ends up looking, and that is what people see. So I wonder if you've got any questions on how to put together your advert. Is there anything there that has struck you as being a bit unusual, something you're not doing at the moment, or something which you can do differently, or maybe this is already something which you're sort of totally familiar with and you're okay with it all? Anyway, just feel free to sort of throw up some questions if you've got any. Okay, so a video, really good question. Thank you, James. I would suggest that you don't do it on your mobile phone unless you've got a really good mobile phone video cam, because it can look very shaky and the light can be very poor on it. So really you want to be using a DSLR camera. And I know that it means that you're going to have to probably invest in that. If you've got a friend or you've got somebody who's got one of those cameras who might do a video for you, that can work just as well. Another way that we've done videos is we use something called Nero, N-E-R-O, which is not expensive. It's video editing software. It's not expensive and it's easy to use, which for me is so necessary because I am not a technical geek and I need something that's easy to use. And what it means is that you can blend photos together to make it look as if it's a video. So you could do 100 photos of a house and then upload them all to Nero, and then Nero will create a video. So that's maybe another easier idea than becoming a sort of professional videographer. Okay, other questions here? Great. Yes, I will. I think some of the copy of this advert, well, actually, the Tenanting Without Tears leaflet, which I'll give to you at the end, has all of this in there. And I'm sure I can send you some more details on this particular advert, the wording. There isn't copyright on the wording. Mark the photo order. Okay, thank you for that. So bedroom, second bedroom, if you have a second one to rent out, or a second view of your greatest bedroom, bathroom or ensuite and bathroom, kitchen, communal area if you've got a lounge, another communal picture, because I think on Spareroom you get about 14 photos. You can get plenty of photos on here. And then the last one would be an outside shot. So either the front of the house or the back of the house or a nice street view. But the picture that most people want to see and that attracts them and draws them in is the shot of the bedroom, the room where they'll actually be renting and they'll be using as their place. We do credit check tenants, but we don't charge for it. So while it says here, bills included, yes, fees apply, no, we don't charge any fees for that, James, if that's what you're wondering. Yeah, we do credit check them, but we don't actually charge for that. That's kind of, we subsume that charge into our, into the rent, I suppose. No, Michelle, I think if they're good quality photos, 14 pictures is fine. Some people, you know, love looking at photos. So as long as they are speaking about the house and about the quality, you might find that one photo that is just a close-up shot of something is really a nice idea. I know that I've got a friend who's very famous in the rent-to-rent arena, Francis Dolly. He suggests that you actually put in a little duck or an unusual item in all your photos to make it stand out so that people remember the photo. So it might be that you want to focus on a particular feature in your room and make the photograph stand out. James, that's that's for a whole other subject. What are the yields to buy an HMO in Stoke-on-Trent? I will very happily chat to you about that, but not tonight. I'm sorry. But very good question. Love it. That's great. Good thinking. Good thinking. So that's really from the point of view of advertising your rooms. Now let me just have a quick look at some other thoughts that I had as well to. The details, yeah, I've talked about that. Okay, that's cool, right, brilliant. So let's just go back to. I've done a bit of a sort of aid memoir so that I know what I'm talking to you all about tonight. So let's go back to the Spareroom ad. So now earlier on, what I said to you is we'll go back to the rankings part of this advert. So let's go back to my placed ads. We haven't had anybody message yet. I was kind of hoping live on the webinar. Wouldn't it be cool if somebody found this advert and messaged me and said, please can I have a viewing? I thought that would be really great. We'll have to wait and see. I'll need to deactivate this, of course, after tonight. So what I wanted to do, though, is to show you settings and stats, because now we've been live. The advert's been live for, I don't know, about just over an hour now. Let's see if we've got anybody who has actually clicked on. So, oh no, still no stats available. So that's a shame, but I might be able to look at the rankings. So let's have a look at the ranking here. So I'm going to run that because it's been live for a while. And there we go. Woohoo! Top of the ranks. So I'm going to open a new tab and I'm going to look at Spareroom again. And I'm now going to look at rooms wanted. So just checking, can you all now see this tab that says, that's the front page of Spareroom? Just checking that you can all see that. Right, there's lots of good conversations going on behind the scenes about buying HMO rooms in Stoke-on-Trent, buying HMO properties. Great, love it, love it. Look, guys, you should just come to my event, okay? And then you can all meet up and you can do all your deals, and I can tell you a little bit about what I've learned, and you can go away and learn some stuff as well. But I'll tell you about that right at the end. Okay, so if you can see that, that's really, really cool. So now let's have a look at rooms wanted in Stoke-on-Trent. Okay, there we go. So search now. So this is people who are wanting flatmates. Sorry, these are flatmates in Stoke-on-Trent. I'm sorry, I've done the wrong one. I want to do rooms for rent. I'm going to come onto that in a minute. So rooms for rent. Okay, cool. So there we go. Top of the listing is my house, unusual 5-bed shared house, Stoke-on-Trent. So can you see there that by giving me, by upgrading to the featured ad status and by enabling me to, and I've got the featured ad, I've got the early bird, and I've put some extra money on the rankings. I boosted the advert. I'm there at the top, new today, and I've actually got a double listing there. So that is how you get to the top of the postings. So that's really good. Now, another thing just worth bearing in mind is that when a tenant comes on to your site, they will also be able to look at the results on a map. And I don't know if you knew about this feature. A lot of landlords look on Spareroom from the point of view of themselves. But I want you to get into the shoes of your tenant. I want you to explore Spareroom as if you were a tenant looking, and look at what the other adverts are. See what other people are putting out there and define and refine your adverts accordingly, because you need to put yourself in the shoes of your tenant to really understand what they're looking for, so you can match their needs to your provision. What you're providing needs to match what they're looking for. That way you will find that you will attract many, many more tenants. Okay, so in terms of ratio of tenants looking for rooms versus rooms for rent, yes, good question. I get this asked a lot. I'm normally looking for 2 to 1, ideally 2 to 1, but it doesn't have to be 2 to 1 for it to work. Remember, a lot of people come onto Spareroom and they don't create a profile. You can come onto Spareroom and literally do what I've just done, which is enter the site and see what's available. So you'll find that while there are lots of people on Spareroom who've got a profile, there are probably another 50% of people who haven't and are just kind of on spec looking. So it's not always, Spareroom data can be a little bit out of date because people leave old profiles on, and they keep their keep old data on the site, as we've mentioned earlier, which isn't good. You need to be cleansing your data out if you've finished with it, but other people will probably keep it on there. But if I look on the map for Stoke-on-Trent, what you'll see is it's a much larger area than just Stoke-on-Trent that's covered. And here you can see there are, it says showing 100 of 291 adverts that are available. And in fact, you can zoom out of the area. So these will all be properties that have the ST postcode. That's how they're sorted. So any property's got ST postcode, this will show up on the map. But as you can see, I know Leek isn't really counted as Stoke-on-Trent. Stafford isn't really part of Stoke-on-Trent, but that will still show up in a search for Stoke-on-Trent. So a good way for you to see what properties are available near to you and to see what your competition is doing is to click on the map. And that way you can spend your evenings finding out what some of the other rooms are like. Right, so let's have a look at this one. So this is ST4. This is my competition. Helen's competition, I should say. Bargain, double, ST4. Okay, and if we look at the advert. Now, Lee, if you're on this webinar, I do apologize. I'm very sorry if this is your advert, Lee, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you to sell this room, Lee. And I think there are ways in which you could probably improve it, as we've perhaps all learned tonight. Keith, good question. Do I see live landlords as competitions? A little bit. it's a bit competitive, isn't it? If you're all, you've all got rooms to sell, and you've got tenants. There is a little bit of sense of competition, but it's gentle competition, is how I'd put it. Generally, I prefer to collaborate than compete. I prefer to work with somebody else than compete, and that's why I'm doing this webinar for free, because Michelle, for example, she's a good friend of mine. She is investing in Stoke-on-Trent, although more in the student market. Would I see her as competition? No, Michelle, you're not competition with me. We're friends. So it's not really that kind of element, Keith. It's more that I suppose it's about having standards. I just want to make sure that my advert is really good and that it addresses the needs of the tenant, so that they think, yeah, I want to rent from you, and I'll choose you over the others. I hope that kind of answers your question. Thanks, Mish. Okay, so looking at it from the point of view of the tenant is really important, because you'll see what they see, and you can see here why this room is available. Okay, you can see they're just not following any of the kind of ideal rules. But by looking on the map, it also allows you to hone down to see what other rooms are available. And this is just still loading at the moment. It's just gone a little bit slow at the moment. Okay, so I think we've looked at the rankings. We've looked at the stats. Right, I'm just going to quickly have another sip of water. While I'm doing that, have a think of a question or a comment that you have, and I'll be back in just 2 seconds. Okay, right, so I'm back now. So what else should I tell you about how to use Spareroom? Well, I feel as if I have probably given you a lot to go on tonight. I'm hoping that you have found this content to be really helpful and really useful. And oh, Keith, right, I see your question there. Should have read live-in landlords? No, not at all. I mean, look, live-in landlords do a great service for their tenants, and actually, in many ways, lots of tenants would rather live with a live-in landlord, because you're there. You can be a sort of concierge type service for them, can't you? So no, it's not competition at all. So, okay, great question, James. How do you find applicants who only want to rent a room in London Northwest 2 only? Okay, so thank you. You've taken me back. So let's have a look at rooms wanted. So if we click on NW2, we'll do this for you, James, NW2, rooms wanted, search now. So these are all the people who are either, they're looking in NW2 and they have put this on their profile. So let's have a look at Amy, shall we? She's new today. So Amy has told us a little bit about herself. And as I say, remember, not everybody creates a profile when they come onto Spareroom. Some people will just find your advert and contact you directly. But this is the second part of your proactivity as a landlord or as an investor. You need to find the tenants who will match your room and contact them. So here we have Amy. She's a strategist working in Soho. She obviously likes gardening, or perhaps she likes gardens. There she is sitting in front of some lovely flowers. Sounds like a really nice girl. She's 23, so she would fit our profile. I don't know if she fits yours, James. And everything else kind of looks good, doesn't it? She's not a smoker. Zone 2, north of the river. Is that Northwest 2? I'm sort of gathering it probably would be. Sorry, being a bit ignorant there about that. So, James, what could you do to show Amy your property? Keith, yes, there will be a repeat of this. Just to let you know, there will be a repeat of the webinar. Okay, so perhaps not totally ideal, but maybe it's sort of close. Well, you could email her. So you could click on email, contact the advertiser of this room wanted advert by email. And she has put in her title, Friendly, Quiet, Professional. So we do a lot of proactive contacting of tenants. We do not rely on tenants to contact us, even though we do get a lot of people coming to us. We've noticed that in the last couple of years, the market has changed and tenants are now expecting to put their own profile up and for you to contact them. So if you're not already doing this, can I suggest that from tomorrow morning, you get up early, go on Spareroom and search for your ideal tenants and contact them, because they will be getting contacted by a lot of other landlords, agents, investors, and they will have to sift out the wheat from the chaff, and the ones who come in, who get in first, will be the ones who will get the viewings and will sell their rooms or sell their flats. So being proactive is another key tip that I would give to you tonight about finding the right tenant for your property. And as I say, this is something that we do regularly now, and it makes such a massive difference in completely eliminating our voids. So let me just go back to the search results as well. Now here, so this is an NW2, we've got over 1,000 results. Remember, there will be probably half of those tenants who found somewhere to live, but they still have their advert details, their profile live on the site. So you might find that you contact 10 people and only 3 of them respond to you. That's normal. Don't be put off by that. Just keep going. But obviously, you want to find people who are most suited to your particular property. You can narrow your search. So if I go down to narrow your search, I can determine a few more details about the person that I'm looking for to rent my home. So the rental budget that they might have, what kind of room sizes they're looking for, when you are happy for them to move in, how old they need to be, etc., etc., etc. You can look at all of that and find the right person for your advert, which is absolutely great. Let's just go back again to the adverts that we saw. So let's have a look down here. In fact, could we go to Stoke-on-Trent? I'll just do you a bit of a comparison with Stoke-on-Trent. So there's 83 results of people looking. But I think somebody asked a question earlier, what's the ratio of people looking to rooms available? What I would say is it's not an exact science, because lots of people don't put profiles on. But these are really interesting. I can see from the postcode whether they're right. My room is ST4, so this person is looking at ST5, so that's not right. Their budget isn't as high as my room. They need to have a higher budget. So I would go down this whole list and I would just click on their advert, see if there was a match there, and then contact them proactively. I would highlight the details of the advert, and one of the things that you can do is insert the reference of your advert into your reply to that person. So if I go on to this one, Douglas Pretorius, click on email advertiser, you can see here on the right hand side, the email tips, link them straight to your ad, unusual 5-bed shared house Stoke-on-Trent by typing ref hashtag 8679820, and we will create an automatic link in your message just like this. So I could write, Dear Douglas, I noticed that you're looking for a room in Stoke-on-Trent. We have a beautiful double room available from Friday. The rent is only £100 a week, all inclusive. Here is a link to the advert. I'd love to show you around the property and see if this is suitable for your needs. Please contact me as soon as possible for a viewing. Yours sincerely, Helen, as I am on this on this site. So a one-liner is probably not going to cut it. It's not going to make you look terribly professional. And also, you're trying to strike up a bit of a conversation with this person, because you do need to find out what's their job, how long have they been employed, where are they living at the moment, and all those questions, by the way, are on the tenant cheat sheet, which I will send out to you at the end of the webinar. So you'll get a copy of that anyway. And those questions that we ask either in person or on the phone or through Spareroom before we even rent the room to that person and before we'll do a viewing. So all those steps are outlined in the tenant cheat sheet. So loads and loads of information there about Spareroom. I'm sure there's even more that I could talk about. I'm going to be running more webinars like this because I know people like them and they enjoy learning lots and lots of hints and tips about them. Before I finish tonight, I just want to very briefly sum up and give you a little bit more final information, if you like, before we finish for this evening. So you will get my Tenanting Without Tears toolkit, because I know many of you have stayed right to the end, so that's great. Thank you very, very much indeed. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. Just take that one down. I know there's a slight delay in the screen. There we go. And just to really give you some sort of final closing hints and tips, just remember to, in your description of the room, include your features, the location, the service that you provide. You know, you can do that quite simply and quite elegantly. The standards and the service you provide, anything about the other tenants, anything extra but that's important, and sometimes even FAQs, frequently asked questions, can be really helpful for tenants as well. Just a few at the bottom. You know, how do you expect payment? How quickly can I move in? Those kind of things. Remember, put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in the shoes of the tenant to help them so you can see the room or the property from their particular angle. And it means that you will be you'll offer a much better service to them, and you'll do a much better advert as well, which will pique their interest, and you will serve them much better. So I want to say thank you very much indeed for being part of this webinar tonight. It's been absolutely brilliant for me. It's the first one I've run like this, and I hope you enjoyed it. I really love your feedback. I am running a day course. It's 10 till 4 on the 24th of September, and I'm just going to quickly put the link up here so that if you're interested in coming along and learning more about how to make your room stand out, how to create great HMOs that work every time, and how to sell yourself as an investor and also as an HMO investor and sell your rooms. It's called the Hmo Fast-Track Workshop. And I'm just going to load it up here so I know that people have said to me, oh, I'd like to do some more training, Wendy. I'd love to do a little bit more. How can I make that happen?
And if you are interested in coming along to that event, it's going to be on the 24th of September, which is a Sunday. It's going to be in Birmingham. The price is only £47, so it's really, really affordable. It's just going to help you to learn a little bit more about HMOs, how to set them up correctly, how to advertise them correctly. Some of the stuff that we've done tonight we'll be doing in a little bit more detail, and other stuff we won't do in so much detail because you've already heard it. But really just to help you to be a really effective HMO investor, to maximise your income and to make HMOs work for you. So if that's something you're interested in, I've just got 15 spaces available because I want to keep it sort of relatively small and sweet. So it's just £47. If you click on the link, the buy now link, that will actually take you to another website which tells you a bit more information about the day. I haven't really gone into it particularly on this particular webinar. If you want to know more, please let me know. I'll be emailing out some further information anyway. But I just want to say thank you very much indeed, everybody, for joining in and being a great bunch of people to present to. When the webinar finishes tonight, I will send out our Tenanting Without Tears sheet as well as a special gift for you for staying on the line and being here. I do very much appreciate it. And if you've got any other questions, please do feel free to contact me. You've probably got my details. You can find me on Facebook or wherever you found me first time, and I look forward to hearing how you get on. So good luck, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance, and I look forward to speaking to you or seeing you sometime in the future. Thank you all very much indeed. Bye bye now.